All the people gonna have 1 minute.
So we're gonna keep this to comments. If there are any questions, we'll take note of those questions. We'll get back to, we'll see if we can get answers for that, okay?
City cable is not here.
Okay. If you want to state your name, fine. If you don't have to. And if you'd like to begin,
My name is Janet Cass. We live just north of Lego Saco Park in the North Pattern. And on Thursday, Groundhog's Day, my husband and I spent most of the day in the backyard. We were having work done on the house. During that time, there were 120 flies over, and these were the touch and goes over and over again. On Sunday, when there were no touch and goes, there were only 11
They like to
flies
hear from
over
us.
the house, and that's it. Today, between 2:10 and 3 o'clock, there were 12 flights. So we had more in less than an hour than we did on Sunday the entire day. So the North Pattern, you say that you're staggering it, but yes, it's staggered. So you hear an airplane every minute, or every 90 seconds, or every 2 minutes. If they go north or south, we hear it.
My name is Dan Selleck, and I had a comment about the noise. You said about modifying the exhaust system or something. My understanding was that most noise comes from the propeller. Maybe you could address that later. What's the advantage to the city of having other flight schools and other entities coming into this airport? Is it an economic advantage? What's the fascination with it? I don't get it. In my condo development, which is on the direct north border of the Botanic Gardens this Saturday, there was a plane with a black tail, I don't know who it belongs to, but flying over every 5 minutes about 150 feet above our buildings. This went on quite a while. Lastly, I'd like to thank everybody here, the homeowners, these gentlemen, for doing this. And it's taken too long to get to this point. I thank you all.
Hello, I'm Greg Sparkman, and Richard, I want to ask you a question, and that is, you mentioned while you were speaking that you've been talking to all the other guys on the Compton, Hawthorne Airport, and they're talking about how they're getting pushed out of their airports. How are they getting pushed out of their airports? Why are they all just coming here? Why are we pushing people out of our airport?
Exactly.
I don't
Very smart question.
They're all coming here because they're being pressured and pushed out of their own airports. Why can't we do the goddamn thing? I don't understand it.
The city invites
them. They should be here. The other thing I wanted to mention was, it's not just about sound, it is about safety. I do live up at a higher altitude like you. I'm over 380 feet on the hillside. And these planes are turning so quick on the left. They're turning crosswind, so they're coming over our roof. They're coming over our roof, still trying to reach pattern height at 1,100 feet. They're coming over under 800 feet over our roof, which is only 400 feet above our house, which is a FAA reg buster.
That's right.
Does he want to answer that question before?
No.
Make all your comments, we'll try to answer a lot of questions at the end. And just
I'm making a list, so maybe I can respond later.
your 1 minute begins now.
Okay, my name is Garrett. I'm a Riviera Homeowner Association member. And I just want to say that too often in these days, our civil discourse is really not very civil at all. And it seems like people on both sides of an issue feel that the only acceptable outcome is 100% what they want. We have pilots, not those that are here today, who feel the only acceptable outcome is being able to fly completely unfettered and do whatever they want. On the other hand, we have a lot of other people who feel the only acceptable outcome is the end of Torrance Airport. And I want to say that I want to commend the city council and the groups that we have here today for trying to reach a compromise. Compromise is not a dirty word, okay? The voluntary measures that are being proposed, I think, are commendable and are great steps in the right direction. Things like landing fees for people based at Torrance Airport, like myself, runway closures, no leaded gas. These are existential threats
this is-
to the existence of
This is a pilot
And I
talking
want
to
you
him.
to, I am a pilot.
He's
I'm also-
interested. He's
When I
interested.
was a kid,
Your time is up. Time is up.
We have other people who'd like.
Thank you.
Okay, I am also on his side.
One minute
And
begins now.
I would just like to say that this airport means a lot to me. And that if you go on with these things that you want to do, that people like me and my dad who want to learn and who want to fly will never be able to do these things.
Think of your health.
Go to other airport. LAX.
It's impossible to operate a general aviation airplane out of LAX,
Huh?
okay? When I was a child, I watched small airplanes fly.
Your time was up, sir. Your time was up. Your time was up. Your time was up. Bye.
Be civil, people.
Yeah, you be civil and move on. Move on. You got your minute. Bye.
Okay, please, everybody, let's have some order, please. Let's give everybody a chance to speak.
Hi,
Your
Thank
minute
you.
begins now, thank you.
my name is Tiffany. I'm in Walteria, South Torrance, and I'm here. My husband couldn't be here. He's a pediatrician, and we're here not just on the noise, but also on the lead and the harmful effects of that. Now, I came in late, and I kind of maybe heard you say that all the flights are unleaded, or the planes are unleaded. This is from the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine. So airborne lead, which is usually in the form of particulate matter, can be inhaled by people in communities surrounding airports. There are no safe lead exposures as measured, and this can happen in particulate air, so we can inhale it. Deposited lead can also be resuspended into the air as dust and inhaled. Hand-to-mouth contact with surfaces where the particles have deposited. So we come from a place, are you listening? Oh, sorry, thank you. Where we are concerned about the safety. I'm pregnant with our first child, and we are really concerned for children and adults. It's very harmful for children and adults. So I'd like to hear your comments on that. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Richard.
Your 1 minute begins now.
Okay, my name is Richard, and I live north of Lagos State Park, so we're impacted by the takeoffs. And one thing you were right about, which is that it's the takeoffs that make most of the noise, and also the looping flights, because they're the problem. And there wasn't a problem up until a couple of years ago, because I think there were far fewer flight schools. The flight schools are the problem.
That's
And
right.
we just have too many flight schools. Sling has, the majority of them, and you readily admit it. And yes, you can't control what goes on in the air. You're absolutely right, but you're wrong about what goes on about lawsuits and your threats that you're making about that the federal government prevent us from doing things like removing your leases. That's not quite true. We have the power of what goes on the ground, and if you don't comply, and we're talking about mandatory complying, then we can revoke your leases.
Sure, your 1 minute.
Thank you.
Sure, your 1 minute begins now.
Okay. So if I understand the gentleman's arguments earlier today, right, one of the problems is the congestion in the air traffic and the number of flight schools coming from outside into Torrance airspace. Is that correct? So I have a letter here from Sling, this was from 2020, to the City Council, saying, and Matt, you signed this letter as well, we know that flight schools avoid airports with landing fees. Therefore, it's safe to say that the bulk of training traffic would avoid Torrance if landing fees were imposed. And several base flight schools have made clear that they believe that landing fees are imposed. Furthermore, that even non-flight school airplanes will conduct training activities such as multiple landings a given day at other airports if landing fees are imposed. So is it your opinion, as you stated here, that landing fees would be an effective way to reduce the number of operations and congestion at the airport? Thank you.
Begins now.
Hi, I live north of the airport where flights take off and turn right over my home. Asking flight schools to shift traffic to north is only going to make an intolerable nuisance worse for us. It will only make the city's headache worse. And so we're here tonight demanding fair and equitable solutions for all of the communities. There is a seasonality to the airport operations. According to the data, volume consistently trends upward as spring approaches, so we've got to do something because it's only about to get a lot worse. And us residents already see and hear firsthand that pilots often don't follow voluntary measures. If flight schools are staggering flights to avoid saturation, then why from 3 p.m. onward today were there 7 planes performing touch and go at the same time in the north pattern? And you want to shift more traffic to the north? No, unless you implement regulations that are compulsory, enforceable, and equitable to all communities, your headache isn't going to go away. You need to end or seriously scale back training operations airport-wide now. Thank you.
Thank you. Your 1 minute begins now, sir.
There used to be a harmonious relationship between the community and this airport. It's been destroyed.
That's
Not
right.
by the community, but by the actions of airport operators. And the responsibility for what's happening rests with the city and the city-owned airport, not the flight schools. The number of flights have to come down dramatically. I don't care whether they're Torrance-based or non-Torrance-based. You've created a public nuisance. You should be aware that the city council sees this now as a public nuisance. The city faces liability for damages for allowing a public nuisance, has a duty to abate a public nuisance, and the citizens who are affected have won numerous court cases for damages against cities and airports who allow public nuisances
Sir, your 1 minute is up.
to damage their own.
Very good speech, sir.
Yes, your 1 minute begins now.
Yes, people talk about the air pollution, people talk about noise pollution, but for me what is important is the hazards of having inexperienced people driving airplanes over our heads. One of those days we wake up and turn on the TV and there's someone would say, I'm so sorry, but it fell over a house. And everybody will say, very sorry, but that can happen tomorrow, can happen anytime. We had already a problem not long ago that 2 people died in that airport.
Touch and go landing. They
That's
would do
it. And I don't accept you say that we don't have the control of the air over our heads. We do. We pay taxes.
Very good.
Sir, your 1 minute begins now.
Hi, John Deering, Southwood Riviera resident. I just want to say that the voluntary agreement is useless. This may have worked for helicopters, but we're talking about significantly more users with planes. I want to point out that there's negative goodwill right now, mainly because of the recent efforts by TAA to even undermine the issue. First, undermining and corresponding directly with the FAA. Second, removing the noise monitoring system, and now misleading on the data. To the comment about the minority of base flight schools having, what their share of flight operations are. If you look at the map just from today, they're only flights from the north pattern. That means it's the base aircraft. Why? Because you just changed the operation. So I would seriously question any of the data that you're getting at this point from the flight schools without proving it out. The noise-sensitive boundary is not appropriate. I want to thank Mark for his comments and also the Riviera HOA for acknowledging that. This is not addressing the root cause of why we are here. Just shifting the flight activity to another neighborhood does not address the root cause. Ban all touch and goes, sling or savvy operators. There's plenty of airports that you could do unlimited that aren't next to residents. Thank
That's
you.
right. There are other airports.
Sir, your 1 minute begins now.
Yeah, my name is Tom, and I live under the south flight pattern. And I just want to point out that Sling misidentified the problem. It's not a battle between us and the FAA. It's the problem with the city and the city agencies that monitor or that establish the contracts, and they're not enforcing the law, the municipal code. That's where the problem is, and it's like a landlord who allows a nuisance to appear on his property. They're supporting it, they're turning a profit, and we need to correctly identify where the problem is and cut back on the city's money coming in from flight schools. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jason Mills from Torrance Riviera. I just wanted to point out one thing that's missing in the handout for the flight tracking data. This is missing the local traffic, which is the touch and goes, and I actually brought that here. And I wish I had enough to hand out to all of you, but
I want one.
Okay, I'll give it to you. There is a little bit less traffic in the south pattern, but obviously it's still going on in spite of the agreement. These printouts I brought were all well after January 18. And like John said, all it's doing is pushing way more traffic to the north, and the traffic to the north is just ridiculous. I don't think Torrance is the place for this kind of training. There's
That's
a lot
right.
of other airports in unincorporated areas.
Long Beach.
Go someplace that's, that all this training is not happening over high density residence area. And last thing I want to say is I wish there was a city council member here today.
That's
I don't know
right.
where they are, but I appreciate all of you for being
There are
here.
a couple in the back.
Oh, are they?
They are hiding in the back. I saw Pat Fury. He saw me, he went back up.
Hi, my name is Debbie, and I live on a hill in the south of PCH. And so I just want to mention a couple things. One is there have been the touch and go training, touch and go landings have been really ridiculous because they circle, they loop, and sometimes they come, they come so low, I swear I can see the gleam is the pilot's eye. They're like 500 feet or less because I live near the top of the hill. And I'm concerned because I thought there was like 1,000 or 1,100 or 1,500 altitude limit, and that is not being honored. And I'd like to know why. The second thing is that how many times are they allowed to touch and go? Is it a time limit, or they just have to get permission first, or can as many as they can work in an hour? Maybe we need to limit how much they can do. And finally, I just have a concern about the loud. So there are a couple. I noticed there are a few aircrafts that are extremely loud, and I think those ought to be banned from the airport. They should not be given a warning. They should know about it. And now.
Your 1 minute is up.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Next person, please. Next, your 1 minute begins now.
For residents, the question is this a Trojan horse or is it a gift horse? And we won't know that until questions are answered. Deep breath. How many total training schools are there and each one's volume? How many are part of this agreement? Does this include schools based elsewhere, such as Long Beach, who use the airport for touch and goes? How will they be stopped? We want to read the LOA to know the exact language. What is the length of time for the LOA? Once finalized, will the LOA become part of your permit and or lease? Are there penalties for not adhering to the LOA? And if you can have voluntary actions such as these, you can have voluntary penalties for not adhering. How will this protect residents in the north pattern, and not just north pattern, but north of, during takeoff of the airport? If this LOA is signed, will other efforts to stop airport noise end? I'm running out of breath. Will Torrance continue working on the 18 potential solutions, and would agreeing to this negate efforts to enforce Municipal Code 5123 for all flights? Is the city pursuing that legally?
Very good timing. A very good timing.
Your 1 minute begins now.
Hi, my name is Carrie. I'm a homeowner and resident in Hollywood Riviera. I'm in agreement that the voluntary enforcement is not a viable solution. It is a Band-Aid at best, and it's not going to address the scope of the problem. Moving all the training to the north is moving the goalposts. You're just going to have more complaints from those neighborhoods. They've come from the south, now they'll move to the north. That's not addressing the problem. The issue is the 50% increase in total operations. You've heard several solutions presented that can fix that. But let me just say one thing on, what this is planning to do. Just today on my lunch break, I already saw evidence of how this is gonna work with voluntary enforcement. A plane from Long Beach used the south runway for at least 6 touch and goes in 45-minute window. This was one person, one plane, one 45-minute window. How does that address something with flight schools when this isn't even a flight school, this is one person? When all these people graduate from flight schools and are now these individual pilots, they're gonna do the same things. How are we enforcing that?
Yes, your 1 minute is up.
Sorry?
Your 1 minute is up.
That's it, 1 minute?
Yep. This is Torrance, the second best fest.
These people are not paying these hangars, they're not paying property taxes, they're not even paying a landing.
Yes, your 1
What
minute
causes?
is up. We have other people.
This is Torrance, young lady. 1 minute and you're done.
We only get one turn.
They only care for a minute.
Your 1 minute begins now.
Okay, I want to change my reading to what she said, doubling down on what she said. My name is Elizabeth Spatz, and I live in the Hollywood Riviera. I've lived adjacent to the Torrance Airport since 1965, never experienced any noise issues until the past 2 years. We all know why. The current noise abatement policies and management programs are clearly not sufficient. And while a voluntary agreement by a number of the training schools is a show of good faith, following fly-friendly efforts have been in place for years and led us to where we are now. Without enforcement, I'd like to know how you would enforce these policies. Citizens have no assurances that pilots will adhere to the airport's operational policies. We need definitive, comprehensive, and enforceable noise management. And let's not lose focus that the main issue is noise management. Our municipal code prohibits right turns from the south runway for a reason, to prevent traffic from flying over rising terrain of the Riviera, which is defined as a noise-sensitive area. In September 2022, the TOA outside attorney concluded that our municipal code is enforceable given its pre-anchor status. This is not about controlling airspace, but about controlling noise. It's in your power, thank you.
Very good.
1 minute begins now.
Hi, I'm downright disappointed by the lack of acknowledgement of the citizens affected by the North Path. I feel the pain of my southern neighbors, but restricting the South Path is a bad idea because it'll make the already bad problem worse for those under the North Path. I live in a neighborhood north of the airport that is labeled noise sensitive by the noise abatement department, yet I still have pilots constantly turning right above my home. And now it's going to get even worse? How is that a responsible and equitable approach? Do you want even more people coming and complaining about noise from flight schools? Because that's exactly where we're headed. The before and after slides presented earlier show how much activity there is north of the airport and how that hasn't improved. We all need help. Thank you.
My name is Catherine. I'm a Riviera resident right across from Richardson Middle School, and I have noticed a difference since the flights from the southern runway were restricted, but that seems like that's not going so well for my northern neighbors. The idea of a voluntary agreement is nice. If those actually worked, no one would cheat in their marriage, we wouldn't have a city attorney, and my child would not have spent one moment in time out in his life. I would prefer an actual law, actual penalties and actual consequences, because I feel that those are the most effective means of enforcing the actual laws. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Diana Stephenson. I want to thank you very much for this forum. I think it's very helpful. Okay, that's fine. It's very quick. I won't take a minute. I live in the Hillside homeowners area. That's actually my mom. Anyway, I was just curious about planes that seem to be flying really low. Is there any consequence for that if they violate the FAA? I mean, if they're supposed to be 1,500 feet up in the air. We track them on Flight Tracker, and some of them, as we said, are very, very low. Is there any consequence for that? It seems
No.
like there should be.
No.
Thank you very much.
No consequences.
Okay, Russ Baccaria. I live west of the airport. I won't repeat what other people have said. I agree with a lot of it. One of the things I haven't heard said is the noise monitoring system is really not working properly. The monitors are not placed properly, so only flights flying right near a monitor register. So for example, flights that turn left early do not come close to a monitor, so they don't register. And also, when I and other people make complaints to the noise abatement office, we get no response a lot of times, or we get a very short, there was no violation. There really should be some proper follow-up. This discourages complaints from being made, and it also grossly undercounts the number of complaints that should be registered. When some of us have pointed out that the Casper system is showing a noise violation, we don't get a clear response from noise abatement as to why the aircraft hasn't been cited. So this whole noise abatement system that we wanted has not been working properly.
1 minute is
up. Yes, I'm a resident of Hollywood Riviera. Seems to me the writing is on the wall. Eventually, the Torrance Airport will be closed, just like Santa Monica. Thank you.
1 minute begins now.
I'm really short, so I had to. My name's Kami Matsumoto, and I am a resident of New Horizons. It's a senior community. And having a meeting at night makes it unfortunately difficult for many of our residents to come here. So I really disagree with the notion that we cannot impact the FAA. We can impact the government of and for the people. We just have to organize. And I would like to also talk about the common good. We have a few pilots, 100 pilots. I don't even know how many pilots fly out of Torrance Airport. But it impacts thousands of people on the ground.
That's right.
With air pollution, noise pollution, and why not charge landing fees and use those funds and resources to better the whole city of Torrance?
1 minute begins now.
I'm Jean Adelsman, and I'm just curious. I understand this is not being recorded. I heard a lot of interesting things. I see someone taking notes.
I am.
Oh, you're taking notes? Wonderful. Because I'm hoping that some of these wonderful comments are being captured. Thank you.
I'm taking notes.
Anybody else? You're up.
Yeah.
Okay, 1 minute begins now.
Hello, my name is Pork Chop, and the Pork Chop, Double or Nothing. Also, I would like to recommend the city would answer the questions: who was the brainiac who gave out the pilot academy licenses? Who let these people, 6 pilot schools, move into our city? And who's raking in the benefits? The city employees getting raises after raises. They have millions to buy a Torrance theater. And what is my gain of this? These bastards flying above my house, 400-500 feet, day after day, every 5 minutes above my house, but I worked 30 years to pay off. And this is my retirement. This is my retirement, these bastards making money and not talking about the assembling airplanes. The assembling airplanes, they're not experimental, but kit airplanes. They testing their airplanes above my house. And they allowed to do that? Do they have a license to manufacture airplanes here in Torrance? They violating every rules. Thank you for letting me speak. No, I love it. I worked 30 years to pay a freaking house out, so I have these people keeping me up 24 hours.
Next person, please.
My name is Mark. I lived behind South High for a number of years. I cannot have a conversation on the phone inside the house because the planes are flying over. You say your airplanes are quiet. They're not. Everything's on app. Sling. I'm outside talking. I have to stop talking to my neighbors because the planes are coming by. The planes come over South High and then turn left over Hollywood Riviera. So they gotta go over my house before they go over somebody else's house. And it's nonstop. And, you know, I'm in the aircraft manufacturing business myself, so I'm not anti-airplane. But planes flying over every few minutes. Kids can't do their schoolwork because planes are flying over on the computer. You can't have a conversation. You can't go outside and talk. You can't sit in your backyard and enjoy your pool because the planes are flying. That's it.
Okay, well, I think we have a lot of things to ingest here as a city, as a group. I want to thank you all for coming. What we're going to do is we're going to take all this information tonight. We'll do what we can to answer as many of your questions as we can. We'll be gathering together as a city group and coming back with another public meeting, which we'll certainly let you know. There's so much